Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. We are on the Kitab Tawbah, and we are on this next chapter about the slander against Aisha radiallahu anha. From Utbah ibn Mas'ud, he narrates that Allah exonerated Aisha of the slander against her. He says that many people reported this narration in accordance with their memories. Some reported more, some less. He says, I listened to everyone and gathered it all together. He says basically the story goes like this. That is to say, the sum and substance of the story is as follows. That the Prophet would cast lots to decide which of his wives would go out with him on the journey. Aisha says that it was drawn in my favor while setting out on a battle. And this is in the period when the hijab was sent down. That is to say, the order of the hijab was revealed. So she was carried in the hawdaj, which is a large box in which a woman sits, so that she cannot be seen. She says we were returning and near Al-Madinah, where we settled down for a little while. She says she went out to relieve herself, and when she came back, she found that her necklace had fallen. So she went back to search for it. During that time, the people left. They did not notice that Aisha was not in the carriage because she was light. So they did not notice her when she was outside of the hawdaj. She says she did not eat too much, so she was light. She found her necklace, but when she returned, everyone was gone, and she was tired, so she slept just there. A man called Safwan ibn al-Mu'attal as-Sulami thumma dhakwani, he had also lagged behind. He came during the night and recognized me, as he had seen me before, and this was at the time before the hijab was revealed. So he knew what I looked like. He recited, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. And Aisha says, فَخَمَّرْتُ وَجْهِي بِجِلْبَابِي, I covered my face with my jilbab. He did not speak a word, and I only heard the istirja' from him. He made his camel kneel down, and I mounted the camel. And he drove the camel along, leading the camel by the nose string. She says, destruction to those who harbored any doubts about me. And the most notorious amongst them was Abdullah ibn Ubay. She says, we came to Al-Madinah, and I felt sick for a month. And the people were spreading these rumors about the slander, and I did not even know it. She says she noticed that the Prophet was not treating me with the kindness which he used to treat me with. The Prophet would greet me with the salam and only ask how I was. And this caused doubt in me, but I was unaware of the evil. I went outside despite my failing health, and there went along with me Mistah, and we were going to the direction of a place called Al-Manasir, and we used to relieve ourselves over there. We used to go there by night, and this was before we had the latrine close to the homes. So she went with Mistah, who was the daughter of Abu Roham ibn Muttalib ibn Abdi Manaf, and her mother was Bintu Sakhar ibn Amir, the maternal aunt of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, and her daughter was Mistah ibn Uthatha. Now something got into the gown of Mistah, and she stumbled, and she said, destruction on Mistah. And I said to her, what a bad thing you have said. Are you cursing someone who witnessed the battle of Badr? She said, O innocent woman, have you not heard what he is saying? And she conveyed to me the statement of the slander. She says, my illness became aggravated. She says she went to the house, and the Prophet greeted her, and I asked him, will you permit me to go to my parents' house? Because she wanted to confirm this news. So she went and asked her mother. She said, do you know what these people are talking about? And the mother said, you should not worry. She says, by Allah, if there is a beautiful woman who is loved by her husband, and he also has some other wives, of course, out of jealousy they will talk many things about her. And I said, Subhanallah, the people have spoken such things? She said, I spent the whole night weeping until I had no more tears left, and I had not even slept, and I wept even in the morning. Allah had not sent any revelation regarding this matter, and the Prophet called upon Ali ibn Abi Talib and Usama ibn Zayd to seek their advice in separating from Aisha. Usama ibn Zayd told the Prophet about the innocence of his wives and how he knew that they loved him. He said, O Messenger of Allah, they are your wives, and we know not about them except goodness. And as for Ali ibn Abi Talib, he said, Allah has not put you under any unnecessary burden. There are a number of women other than her, and if you ask that maidservant, Barira, she will tell you the truth. So the Prophet called Barira, and he asked her, "Oh Barira, do you see anything in Aisha which could make you doubt her?" And Barira said, "By him who has sent you with the truth, I have seen nothing doubtful in her, but only that she is a young girl, and she goes to sleep while kneading the flour, and that the lambs would eat it." So that's to say, that's her only fault. She just is a little negligent in safeguarding the flour, because she will just go to sleep while kneading it. To this, the Prophet got up on the minbar, and he sought vindication for Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul. He said that I know nothing about my wife except goodness, and the man who has been spreading these rumors, according to my knowledge, is a pious person, and he would only enter upon my family with me. And Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh al-Ansari got up and he said, "I defend your honor against him. If he is from the tribe of Al-Aws, we would strike his neck. And if he is from our brothers Al-Khazraj, and you ordered us to do that, we would comply." And Sa'ad ibn Ubadah, who was the leader of the Al-Khazraj, he got up, and he was a righteous man. However, he did have some tribal partisanship in him, and he said to Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh, who was the leader of the Aws, "By Allah, you are not stating the fact. You will not be able to kill him, and you will not have the power to do so." Thereupon Usayd ibn Hudayr stood up, and he was a cousin of Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh, and said to Sa'ad ibn Ubadah, "By Allah, you are not speaking the truth. We would kill him. You are a hypocrite, and so you argue in defense of hypocrites." And because of this, the enmity between the tribes of Al-Aws, whom Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh was the leader of, and the tribe of Al-Khazraj, whom Sa'ad ibn Ubadah was the leader of, this enmity flared up until they were about to fight each other, and the Prophet subsided their anger until they became silent. Aisha says, "I spent the whole day weeping, and I could not even sleep at night." She says, "I wept and my parents sat beside me. And then a woman from the Ansar came to see me, and she also began to weep. And we were in this state until the Prophet came and greeted us, and then sat down. He had not even sat with me for a month since the rumor started, and neither was there any revelation to clarify this case. The Prophet recited the tashahhud, and he said, to come to the point, 'O Aisha, this is what has reached me about you, and if you are innocent, then Allah will vindicate you. But if on the other hand, you accidentally fell into sin, then seek the forgiveness of Allah, for He will pardon you, because the servant, when he confesses his sins, then Allah accepts his repentance, when he repents to Allah.' She says, when the Prophet stopped speaking, my tears dried up, and not even a single tear was dripping down. I said to my father, 'You reply to the Prophet on my behalf.' He said, 'By Allah, I do not know what I should say.' Then I asked my mother, 'Give a reply to the Prophet on my behalf.' She said, 'By Allah, I do not know what to say.' She said, 'I was a young girl at that time and I had not read much of the Quran. But I said, by Allah, I perceive that you have heard these rumors and you have taken them to be true. So I say to you that I am innocent, and Allah knows I am innocent. But you would never believe me to be true. And if I confess a sin, whilst Allah knows that I am innocent, you would believe me. So I cannot say anything except for what the father of Yusuf, referring to Ya'qub alayhi salam, said, فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ وَاللَّهُ الْمُسْتَعَانُ عَلَى مَا تَصِفُونَ. Patience is beautiful, and Allah's help is sought against that which they describe. After this, she says, I turned my face and lay down on my bed. I was fully aware of the fact that I was innocent, but I did not expect Allah to reveal ayat of the Quran which would be recited in my favor, as I did not think that I was significant enough. But I had hoped that Allah would give the Prophet some sort of dream or a vision, and the Prophet had not even moved an inch from where he had been sitting, and my family members had not even left, and Allah Jalla wa Ala revealed an ayah. The Prophet felt a burden which he would feel at the time of receiving revelation, and he began to sweat. And even during the winter season, he would be dripping sweat, like silvery beads, when he would receive the revelation. When the revelation was finished, The Prophet smiled, and the first words he spoke to me were, Abshiri ya Aisha, receive glad tidings, O Aisha. Amma Allah faqad barra'ak. As for Allah, then He has exonerated you. My mother, who had been standing by me, said, Get up and thank him, meaning thank the Prophet. But I said, By Allah, I shall not thank him, but I shall thank Allah, who exonerated me. Allah Jalla wa Ala revealed the ayah, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ جَاءُوا بِالْإِفْكِ عُصْبَةٌ مِّنْكُمْ. Those who brought the slander amongst you are a group of you. There were 10 ayat revealed. Now Abu Bakr used to spend on Mistah, who was the cousin of Abu Bakr, because Mistah was poor. But Abu Bakr said, By Allah, I will not spend anything on him, because Mistah was one of those who was spreading these rumors. But Allah Jalla wa Ala revealed the ayah, وَلَا يَأْتَلِ أُولُو الْفَضْلِ مِنْكُمْ وَالسَّعَةِ أَنْ يُؤْتُوا أُولِي الْقُرْبَى. Those people who are rich and have the means should not take an oath that they will not spend on their near kindred. Up till the statement, أَلَا تُحِبُّونَ أَنْ يَغْفِرَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ. Would you not want that Allah should forgive you? And Abu Bakr said, By Allah, I would love that Allah should forgive me. And so he returned to spending on Mistah, saying, And I shall never stop this stipend which I give to Mistah. The Prophet asked Zainab bint Jahash, another one of his wives, about me, that is, what she knew about me. And Zainab said, O Allah, I will not say anything without hearing it with my ears and seeing it with my eyes. By Allah, I find nothing but goodness in her. And Zainab bin Jahsh said this despite the fact that she was the only other wife of the Prophet who would compete with Aisha. But Aisha says that Allah saved her from falling into these rumors. However, her sister Hamna bint Jahsh did fall into the rumors, and she was undone along with those who were undone. So this is the story of the slander against Aisha radiallahu anha. It is a famous one. And about this episode, Allah Jalla wa Ala revealed 10 ayat. That is actually a great many number of ayat, considering it is just one episode. The man who started all these rumors off about the slander against Aisha was the great hypocrite Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul. He did not have anything against Aisha per se, but he wanted to discredit the Prophet any which way he could. Allah Jalla wa Ala says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ جَاءُوا بِالْإِفْكِ عُصْبَةٌ مِّنْكُمْ لَا تَحْسَبُوهُ شَرًّا لَكُمْ بَلْ هُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. Those who brought the slander are a group amongst you. Do not consider this to be something bad for you, rather it is better for you. One may think at first glance this is something evil, or bad, or negative. But Allah Jalla wa Ala is saying no, it is better. Because much good came about from this initial evil. These ayat were revealed which will be recited up till Yawm al-Qiyamah, and there came to Aisha an immense joy and relief. We find in this narration that the Prophet sought advice from Usama ibn Zayd and Ali ibn Abi Talib. So even the Prophet, being a Prophet, sought advice. So how about for us? Seeking advice from people you trust and are knowledgeable is from the Sunnah. As Allah Jalla wa Ala says, وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ. And their matter is decided by consultation amongst them. And Usama ibn Zayd gave him good advice, that he only knows goodness in Aisha, and that the Prophet should not separate from her. The Prophet felt it is better to be separated from Aisha because of these rumors going around, and they could damage his reputation and hence damage his mission and his message. Even if Aisha was innocent, but the people did not know that. As for Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anh, he was looking out for the Prophet. He did not want any unnecessary, avoidable harm coming to the Prophet. So he said, look, the easiest way out is just to leave her. She is not the only woman in the world. And Ali referred the Prophet to Barira. He asked her, do you know or heard anything that could make you doubt her? She said, no, there is no fault in her, except that she just is a little negligent in her duties. When she's kneading the flour, she would just fall asleep whilst doing that work, and the sheep would come and eat it. The scholars are agreed by ijma' that the one who accuses Aisha of what Allah Jalla wa Ala has exonerated her from is a kafir. Why? Because he is belying the Quran. In fact, anyone who accuses any one of the wives of the Prophet of adultery is a kafir. because this is the biggest and severest form of disrespect to the Prophet. We find from this narration the fadila of Aisha in that Allah Jalla wa Ala sent down not just 1 but 10 ayat exonerating her. Yet she was thinking that she is not worthy enough for Allah Jalla wa Ala to send down even 1 ayah speaking about her. We found that even some righteous Muslims, such as Misbah, the cousin of Abu Bakr, who took part in the Battle of Badr, even he fell into these rumors. Hassan ibn Thabit, the prestigious poet of the Prophet, also fell into this rumor. And as we found from the statement of Aisha, Hamna bint Jahash, the sister of Zainab bint Jahash, also fell into this rumor. So beware of rumors. Everything must be verified. Notice also, right at the beginning of the story, when a man called Safwan ibn al-Mu'attal met Aisha all alone and he made istirja', what did Aisha do? She says, فَخَمَّرْتُ وَجْهِي بِجِلْبَابِي, I covered my face with my jilbab. Why did she do this? Because Safwan ibn al-Mu'attal was a non-mahram. So what does that tell you? It tells you that it was the regular practice of Aisha to cover her face in front of non-mahram men. And this is the better practice for all Muslim women, although it is permissible for them to not cover the face. We may take from the narration that being eager to attain wealth can lead to negative consequences, because Aisha took a long time looking for her necklace. Had she not done so, she would have returned and avoided the problem. So having your heart too much attached to wealth can have negative consequences. And we have supporting evidence from the hadith which have preceded about not measuring or counting your food supply. We find that if you find yourself in privacy with a non-mahram woman, which could happen, as did to Safwan ibn Mu'attal, then you must conduct yourself professionally and with decency. We may take that even people who participated in Badr are subject to the had punishments, even if we know from the hadith of Hatib ibn Abi Balta'a that the people of Badr are forgiven for their sins. But the had punishment must be carried out. Likewise, if they were to destroy somebody else's wealth, they would not be forgiven for that. They would stand as guarantors. We may take that it is recommended to seek a consultation even by those who have less knowledge than you, as the Prophet did with Ali and Osama. There's an interesting point about the Prophet asking Barira about Aisha, whether she has any faults. Notice how Barira mentions her fault, but also mentions an excuse for that fault in saying that she is of a young age. And this is how we should be. If we mention a fault about someone for a genuine reason, so we're not backbiting, then do mention an excuse if you know there to be an excuse. Also, we find the Prophet asking Barira, a third person, about his own wife. So it is even more worthy for you to find out about someone else who is not a spouse of yours. For example, if you're contemplating on marrying somebody, but you want to find out more about them, then by all means ask other people who know them, because this is under the heading of seeking advice and consultation, which is what we are required to do, in addition to making Salatul Istikhara. We also find that the ayat of the Quran are general if the words are general, because Aisha quoted Ya'qub with the same words, but the context was extremely different. Ya'qub had lost his sons, and yet Aisha was being accused of adultery. These are two different scenarios, but the words used were the same, because we say that the ayat are general. They can apply to many different cases. We may learn that even the best of us can have some remnants of negative qualities, as Sa'd ibn Ubadah argued against Sa'd ibn Mu'adh on account of some tribalism which he had. So we all have negative qualities which we must work to eliminate, and this is the jihad of the self. As for Usayd ibn Hudayr, the cousin of Sa'd ibn Mu'adh, calling Sa'd ibn Ubadah a hypocrite, then of course this was all done out of anger, and even the wisest and righteous of people can say silly things out of anger. The next chapter, about the servant girl of the Prophet being free from zina. Anas reports that a man was accused of fornicating with a servant girl of the Prophet. Thereupon the Prophet ordered Ali to go and strike his neck. Ali found the man in a well cooling his body. Ali took him out, but he found that the man's sexual organs were cut off, and so Ali did not strike him, and he went back and told this to the Prophet. The servant girl being spoken of here is Maria, the Walad of the Prophet. She gave birth to Ibrahim, and the people were spreading these rumors that this particular man had intercourse with Maria, and this would be an embarrassment for the Prophet. We take from this narration that anyone who has intercourse with the Prophet's wives or even his servant girl is to be executed. And this is because of the extra sanctity of the family of the Prophet ﷺ. And this is not a general rule for everyone else, although we may say that in an instance of rape, the Khalifa may subject him to the death penalty. We may also take that it is permissible to look at another person's awrah if there is a greater good behind it, such as to serve justice. Let's take some review questions. So question number 1, why would the hypocrites, especially Abdullah ibn Ubay, target Aisha and spread this slander against her? Did he have something personal against her? Question number 2, in the story of Aisha, we learn that the ayat of the Quran are general in their meaning and not specific to any one particular occasion. Where do we take that from? Question number 3, we take from the story the importance of consultation, even with those who have less knowledge than you. Which part of the story do we take that from?